Hi, this is Brett McGeckran. This is my video for my last Capstone submission. So the client site didn't change all much for that from the last video to this one. So as you can see, this is still the hard-coded value for the About Us page. It's basically the default landing page to make sure that they all have a default page, and this gives general information about the company. Now, if I go to this is just an added 404 page to help prevent people navigating to wrong links, or if a bookmark change or if a link changes in the site and somebody has a bookmark to it, they don't accidentally go to the wrong site. So now for changes, uh, this contact page didn't change how it displays, and it still works the same way where it's basically displaying from. So in this table, this contacts is basically a view, or it really only contains a foreign key which gets it its information and whether or not the contact is active. And what that table displays actually comes from this view, which basically is taking that foreign key data and just creating the actual full object, so I can pull them without having to do any joins at runtime. I can just hit this view and it'll give me exactly what I need from there. And as such, it's mainly just there so people can look at this page to find contacts. Like if, say, they're having issues submitting or something, they can call someone and try to get help quickly, or if they have a general question about the company or their services. Now, the questions and answers did change. Originally, they were using the mat card like this, but now it's changed to a table. This is so you can allow paginating, you can allow sorting and paginating. This is mainly to help when, as they add in production more questions, there isn't like 100 cards that people have to scroll down. They can actually just paginate, and then it was also so you can now do sorting. So like if I do test, it'll let you do test and you can reset and bring everything back up. Now, I did apply to where if you hit enter in here or search and this field is good, it will do the same thing of loading the values you're searching for. And the way this is actually working is this is basically doing a search, a like search over these two columns, and it's doing a fuzzy search where it puts whatever the text you put in and puts two percentage signs around it. So you can kind of, if you want to look for, oh, error in submission, not able to submit, or website seems down, or you can kind of more easily like search it instead of having to get the exact string at the start or end of something, or if you're only searching in the question when maybe your thing isn't an answer and the question looks completely different. So the next page that got changed was the services page. Now in the database, just so I can go over, the services and questions are kind of similar in how they work. So services have a description and a type, and the questions have a similarly question text and answer text. And basically how this thing works is this is using a mat grid list from Angular Material. And basically, ideally, when this is in production, they're going to have like 30 or 40 different services they offer. But right now, these are like the test cases they gave me. And when you click these, it'll open up and they'll have a big description that they can have in here that I'll display. This is more, a table may be better, or a card list may be better for displaying this, but this was more for variety on the site. This may get changed if they ever do want to use this in production, or if they just want to continue using their old system, but this was more for variety purposes. Next, so the major change here was this used to be one big form that you would have to scroll through. I changed this to just be a stepper. The major benefit of that is just for ease of use on mobile, and also just ease of use for when you're looking at it, because obviously if you're looking at 30, 40 fields at once, it may be annoying and really hard to understand, versus if you're looking only at 5 or 6, that's easier on the eyes and easier to understand. Now, the reason why you're having this red here is because technically steppers, as they move, they mark all the fields as touched. So that way when users go back, or if they're missing a step, it's clear what they missed on the form. Now, obviously, I could maybe try to make it to where it doesn't do this, but I feel this actually works better, because then if you accidentally skip over a thing and go to the next step, and you're trying to figure out why these two buttons are grayed out, you're not struggling to figure out. Instead, it's very quick and easy to understand, oh no, I just need to do this one. So now let me submit one or two. And then this is this drop down is maintained by this table. And similar as the other ones, it'll pull whatever is active and nothing else, and it will stick into the appointments the job ID. So that way this is a foreign key, so that way we're not having to store stuff in a non-normalized way. This has a regex to make sure that you match our expected format. And this also has an email validator to make sure you have a proper like email format in it. This dropdown comes from the states table here. The reason I don't have like a countries is right now they don't see any reason to build that out, since right now they're more focused on the US. Because right now they really only serve Nevada, and that's where this active column comes in. Because they may put in production all 50 states, but only have Nevada as active. And then as they try to expand to include, say, California, Arizona, they can then activate those on the admin site and have them appear here instead of having to add them all at one time or whatnot. They can just add them all while they're sitting and prepping production data. Oh. This has a regex to match the official zip code they wanted for formatting. That was why it wasn't working. Okay. So now these are just for date pickers to make it easier on them to grab. And then this is official. They did say that they're technically a 24-hour business since they're medical. So that's why there's no like, oh, start at 8 a.m., start at this. Because they said they've had appointments before where somebody's asked, because they frequently, like one of these services is called Mohs surgery, which is where they go in and remove cancerous tissue. And as such, they sometimes can have weird schedules where maybe they have one company who said, or they'll have one person who said, oh, I can go in from like, let's say the surgery is going to take 10 hours and starts at free. Maybe somebody will do free to 5, and then another person will do like midnight to another time. So that's why that kind of exists. Now, so, and calculate, this will calculate the time automatically. On the admin side, it doesn't calculate automatically, and that's because they wanted people to have the ability to automatically change data and stuff as needed. Because for them, they didn't really feel that it should be automatic. They wanted people to make sure they were doing the math right with the correct rate and stuff and applying the rate correctly. So, as such, that's more freehand. So now if I do submit request, that'll go in. And then to show some other things, if I go into here and I select here. So some of the extra functionality is if I look at here, it pulls in the list of holidays. So if you have a holiday, so let's see here, so Christmas, and you select, so I'm going to go get Christmas. Now, as you can see, it bases holiday time, and that's to change how the rate works. Similarly, if I do number of cassettes, it'll reset it, and then it will pull up by cassette instead of by a time amount. Then next, this charity bun, this is kind of to fill in the Christian perspective. Basically, since it is a medical organization, they do sometimes get requests of, hey, can you please help us like out? We have this kid who can't really afford your full services. Would you be mind doing it at a cheaper rate, or seeing if there's a way we can work out? So if they click this, it'll again disable the submit request and clear out this field, and then will calculate based on the charity rate, which this is a test data. Normally this would be way lower than all the other ones, but this is just a test data that I threw in. And then as I submit, and yeah, so basically the general idea of this form is to just let submit. Now, again, this was another reason why they'd rather this be a yes, no, because obviously then on the admin site, let's say they get to the cost information and it's a charity in Las Vegas, so there's no travel cost, they then may decide that they're just going to do it out of the goodness of their heart. So yeah, that's mainly why. And then for free, this is also a clear button to make it work. So currently that's how that works. And then yeah, so this is the client side. I'm now going to switch over to the admin site. Hi, so this is the admin site. So now, of course, when you enter, you get this login screen. Now, talking with the stakeholder, it sounds like there's really no need for separate permission levels, as the only people they're going to give access to the site will already have full admin access. And this was something I discovered only a couple days ago. It sounds like most people really who have this site are full-time employees, because they only really have like 10 employees because they're a new company. So everyone on there is basically an administrator. So you don't really need separate roles yet. So this is mainly right now set up just to handle that case. And there is like a default role if needed. And then so this obviously has an email validator like the other forms to make sure. Now if I If I enter in a bad password, it just gives it an error logging in issue. This is mainly to not show information to the client for what the error is, to prevent people from spamming the form trying to see if they can guess a password or possibly guess an email. Now, if I enter in a right password, this is just a Google error. Basically, it's just a test password, so it's not actually used in an account. So now, when you get to the screen, this is all the request. This loads up. This is kind of so if, say, you hit login and went to another screen, this would give you an indication of, oh, hey, I have this many requests that I need to look at. So now the first thing is when you open up, it gives you all the information. Users are allowed to edit it to what they need, and they can update and change it. So like, let's say if I do actual cost 1001, you can hit update. And when you close this and reopen it, that data is now actually there and reloaded in the table, because every time this dialog closes, it tries to reload the table. Now, the table comes with sorting, so you can sort by here and here. Currently, it only does it on create date, appointment date. It doesn't do it on phone number just because I didn't see the point in that, but it does it on every other column, as well as it paginates. And then now when you open this up, you have a few options. You can cancel this, which will, if you hit cancel, it obviously cancels it. And cancel and deny are separate functionality because it essentially would represent a different state in the database flag, since I would want to track the difference between a canceled request and a denied request, because essentially it would be us denying the appointment versus the outside user choosing to do it. Now, this approve button basically means all the information is correct. Please move it to the next stage. Now, you can always update information later. This is just more as a step of marking in the right status. So if I hit approve, that goes to the next status. And then these all stay. So ideally, the workflow would be then they just keep doing this and moving it. So the approved then goes to here. So now basically these are all the employees that are in our database. And the way it works is it'll pull out the employees with a foreign key link to that brings all their appointments. And then these tables obviously do have the same functionality of sorting and pagination. And now when you get there, now obviously these guys don't have any assigned, but if I go back here and pick Brett, approve. Now if I go back here, these will all have data in them. And now similarly, when you click on them, they do a similar thing to the previous where they're all in steppers. You can choose to edit them. You can do what you need. And then these free buttons act the exact same as the previous, where they just are meant to allow us to cancel and deny. Similarly, this could, at this point in the process, somebody could opt to do that, and therefore we want to do it. This, similarly to the approved, just moves it to the next status pool. So if I hit finish, and just for some test data, I'm going to hit finish on all of these. Then now I'm gonna go check the pending billing. So now what this is this is a list of everything that is currently not above finished. And so when you look, here's all pending billing. And basically what this is, again, you could update it, say there was a change in the rate, or say you had a travel cost associated, you could do this, or you could do mark as awaiting payment, which moves it down to this thing. And then just for some test data, I'm going to move all of these down as well. Now, this one here has a few different options. It still has the same update, but then this one, mark as paid, if you click mark as paid, it moved it down to this table. And then when you go down here, same thing, the update. And then archive basically just moves it kind of to like a history status. The other thing that could happen, though, is this was something they wanted just to track, is payment refusal. So if you click this, it goes into this table. And basically, this table is meant to serve as kind of a storage place for if they're fighting with a customer based on if they didn't pay or not. And then these two options, unpaid and paid, basically if you mark it as paid, it goes back into here. But if you mark as unpaid, it goes into here. And the idea is it represents these 2 bits here. They're represented by these 2 bits in the database. So now payment refused is that if initially they refuse payment, it gets marked to true to indicate that. If it's false, it just means they're not. Payment received after refusal is basically to indicate if, say, after you talk to them, or if say you take them to collections or something, they then pay. This is marked true to indicate that. So these two bits are meant to show for reporting if possibly an agency has or hasn't refused pay. And the main reason of recording that data is just so in case they run into an agency that's been in a problem in the past with payment, they maybe could just deny the request right out instead of doing everything and then not getting paid and having to take that at a loss. For the final main page, this is the stats page. How this works is basically in any of the time settings, it'll pull and make these cards if the appointment, if the status exists there. So like these are all the appointments with that specific status, and it will be similar since it's all test data for all of these. But then if you go to all time, since there's no time scaling to check for a date, it will actually show zeros. And this is mainly just how the material type ORM pulls data, why it looks as this. So then next, this the administration page is this. The reason there's room is just in case as more ideas get added and as possibly if there needs to be more specific custom admin sites, there's already room for that. But for right now, these are them. Now, the four that are most similar are these two, or are these four, because basically they're all just a table with a form associated. So similar to the client site, this has paginating and it has a sorting feature where you can type Christmas. And then if you obviously type something that's not there, it won't find anything. But what is here though is if you click these, this enables you to edit them. So let's say I put Christmas 2, update, then fix it. And then again, this is generally there so they can add and deactivate holidays as so that way the pricing comes as correct. So like for instance, they may make Christmas a holiday most years, but if say Christmas falls on a Saturday, they may then degrade it down to a weekend cost, or same with Halloween. And then this new opens up the same form so you can add it. So let's say if I wanted to add let's add in July 4th, then go pick July 4th, add, then gets added to the table. And yeah, so these four all work pretty much the same, and they are all stored in their own tables in the database. Then these two then work the same as each other, where basically because they're varchar like 255 and 250, they have the similar searching as what was seen on the client side, but to get them to work, they needed to be a text area instead of just a simple input box to allow more text to kind of be there in a nicer way to see. Because if I did just a regular input box, it would kind of look a little weird. Currently, there's no need for them to do anything fancy like pictures or anything, but if that was included, we'd probably need to look at doing like an external library like TinyMCE to include that functionality. Finally, we have employees. The only reason I didn't say it functions similar to these is just because there's a lot more foreign keys, there's drop downs, there's other stuff. This is something where they wanted to where anyone could reset anyone's password. It's not normal for security, but they said they've had issues with this in the past. They'd like to look into, though, when it becomes a more official system, doing something where this just self logins through like through either an ISS login or some type of Google login, so that way they don't have to have this. But yeah, so that's the main function of that. And the database I've mostly gone over. As I said, this is to store the appointments, and it's foreign keyed to this to store their status so we can update the name of them without having to do like a select all. This is mainly just a foreign key into the employees to grab data from it and indicate what contacts is active or not. This is a lookup, this is a lookup, this is a lookup. This is to store the rates information, so it's kind of acting a lookup, but I also do copy the rate into each appointment separately instead of foreign keying it. This is so if a custom rate is made, it doesn't like overwrite or cause an issue, and I don't have to do like some sort of complicated bit logic where it's like, here's the foreign key to the rate, and if custom rate exists, use that, otherwise this, it just